Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jim Walsh. It's my privilege to be chair of today's meeting. I would like to do as usual. We'll start off with our introductions. To my right.
Douglas Kellner.
Evelyn Aquila.
And Greg Peterson.
Greg Peterson. And continuing on.
Todd Valentine.
Kimberly Galvin.
Paul Collins.
John Conklin.
Tom Connolly.
Dave Loomis.
Joe Burns.
Anna Savitro.
Bill McCann.
Bob Frem.
Cheryl Parker. Terry Reeves.
Yes, please.
Okay. Sarah Popper.
Casey Seiler from the top.
Thank you all.
And Sarah, you're from the League of Women Voters?
Our first item of business is the review of our minutes. We have a motion to approve. Any additions or deletions will be accepted at this time.
So move the minutes as drafted.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Unit updates, executive, Robert Bram and Todd Valentine, please.
Well, I mean, one of the main purposes of this meeting, I guess is a good thing, was to review any challenges or determinations on judicial nominating documents, and we don't have any because there are no objections have been filed at this point, and I know, knock on wood. So that I don't know what that says about the process, but maybe people finally. We've been able to help them, and they all get it right 100% the first time. So, so we don't. That's one thing we don't have to do. And as we've alluded to in the past, I mean, it's been busy, but not so much related to. There's been some follow-up from the election process, and Anna can talk more about this. But there seem to be a number of tie votes in small races that have occurred throughout the state, vacancies created by that. So, guiding the counties and and parties that nominate as a result of that, it's always new to them. But this is an issue that we see, so we try to provide. We spend a lot of time providing guidance for that in the post-primary world. And we've been busy with attending the Moreland Commission. We virtually attended the one on the 17th, which is down in New York City. They webcast that. They held one here on the 24th. A number of the staff attended that, as well as watched it online. And we've had interviews with staff level here on the 23rd, 26th, and 27th of this month. So when the next goal related to that is to turn to starting to come up with our own draft testimony based on what we've put in the past in the last two Senate hearings for the hearing that's scheduled on the 29th, which is something we need to talk about later for our next board meeting. And we did receive the big item on an administrative front. We did receive the budget call letter for, as may have been reported in the media. Again, they're looking for a flat budget or a no-growth budget for the next year. Actually, the next 2 fiscal years they anticipate, which is problematic when we have tough resources right now, and to go in a zero-growth budget. We've done a lot of savings in the last couple of years with the rent money that we've saved. We've cut down on our fleet of cars, has been reduced to 1, which we own. We have a fleet of 1. We still have to do a fleet report, but we have a fleet of 1, which I think we're actually going to get rid of 2 because it's an old cargo van. It's not a cargo van, but it's a minivan that doesn't have seats. We were using it as a cargo van. So, which has caused, admittedly, is an inconvenience to the staff when they do need to have transportation for on short notice for visits to county boards, for attendance at meetings. It's a big state, so a car is almost the easiest way to travel around. So that's become somewhat of a problem. So
Very difficult to travel.
well, it makes it more inconvenient because they prefer that you rent cars, and if you do use your own personal vehicle, which is always the third and last choice for transportation, if you're not using public transportation, you're limited in your mileage reimbursement, and it becomes difficult. And on top of that, as an administrative front, we have significant challenges getting reports out about the status of our spending and anticipated spending for the rest of the year. We finally did get a report out of our host agency, the Office of General Services, for anticipated spending, and right now it's good. We're actually on track to have a surplus, which possibly could get eaten up in the next, because of the anticipated expenses related to the publication requirements for the constitutional amendments. I know that's something that we've worked on to try to sharpen our pencils to narrow that down as much as it is, but based on the size, there are 6 amendments, which is not something we would normally anticipate, 1 or 2, but the cost will be in the several $100,000 range, just because to advertise that much text on those many papers statewide costs a lot of money, which is, going to eat into whatever little surplus we thought we might have towards the end of the year. So that's going to be a challenge. Bob?
That's a pretty complete report. I know it's taken quite a while working with the Office of General Service, Division of Budget, our administrative office and staff members to try and get a clear picture from OGS as to our fiscal situation. When they went to the new financial system, there certainly has been a learning curve that they are under, and we were used to receiving quarterly reports guiding where we evaluate our spending to date as compared to a year ago and whether or not we project to the end of the fiscal year. Last year, in all that effort, we really didn't get a report until about a month before the end of the fiscal year. It really was very difficult for us. This year we continue to push for that report, and we just got it last week. And one, it was helpful to see, but there's still a few questions. The one risk being, of course, the printing of the constitutional amendments, but also to make sure that we're up to date with all of the various, the business service center that pays the bills, and OGS and the state controller. So it's uncertain yet whether or not that is a complete picture of all of the invoices are actually accounted for. So that is something that we are hopeful that in the next couple of weeks we have a follow-up meeting with them a week from Tuesday to make sure that we're in that comfort zone, that we know that we're on track to at least the bills are paid, because it has been a concern of both Todd and I and Tom Jarose and others that we get accurate information. And we've been working with everybody to do that. And that's, it's an important thing for us as we go forward. The budget submission is due October 16th. That generally isn't the big issue because it's a flat budget. There's not a lot of decision-making there. Certainly we'll have to, we have historically been submitting a budget side letter. I think it'll probably reflect what we'll say at the Moreland Commission, probably a little shorter. But certainly the resource need, the technology need, the unique issues going into the next fiscal year that happen once every 4 years when there's a governor's election. That's the fiscal year we have to do things like perhaps reprint forms because the parties change, the order change, things like that. Things that people forget that we identify for them in that cycle. That is hard when you're just set to a finite budget to submit the same as you had last year, where we didn't have those cycle issues that come up once every lifetime. But generally speaking, that's moving well. We're concerned a little bit, I think, about the, from the federal fiscal situation. We have 2 types of grants that I know today is the end of the federal fiscal year, so I know the PIO staff has been working hard for the county funds to make sure that any of the funds that are related to the HHS that expired today, because the 5-year ago funds end today, and they've been working hard, and we've been pushing through OGS and the Business Service Center to make sure anything that's submitted is paid, because it has to be received today. Otherwise, it goes away at midnight tonight, whether the federal government stays in business or not. But we also have the MOVE Act grant that we draw down that money, so depending on quarterly. So this is the end of the cycle, so we would look to draw down money. So one, we're just not certain of the impact. It's not great. I think it'll work through, but it's issues that the staff are working through. I think the biggest one is for the staff to make sure, because they do a great deal of energy to make sure every county that has a little bit of money left in that HHS 5-year money, that they're noticed and they're told and they're handheld to make sure that they get those through the process. And I think we've succeeded with everybody that gave it to us timely.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Legal, Kim Galvin.
Thank you, Commissioner. We participated in many of the things that Bob and Todd talked about. I think there was a county call in there that they didn't mention that we also participated in. A variety of us worked with Anna to review documents on the Supreme Court nominations. She got stuck with finding us, but it seemed to have worked out. But she obviously did most of the work there. As they said, we've reviewed the Moreland Commission testimony. I personally didn't attend, but I watched them both on the webcast. And I think we're going to work towards, creating a testimony that answers many of the questions that were raised, and in addition, taking the opportunity to put forth our best foot forward on a variety of issues, even though the timing might be constrained, to give actual live testimony. And we were served, the board was served with a case in the Southern District, New York Progress and Protection PAC, that the Attorney General is representing us on, that I think is basically challenging the $150,000 contribution limit. You have anything to add?
I don't think we've been served yet. But be that as it may,
They are representing us.
we
need to
received
serve the
notification. Have we been served? I'm not aware of that. I don't think we have been.
Yeah,
We
Robbie,
received
yeah.
notification from the
Yeah.
Office of the Attorney General down in the beautiful city of New York that an action was going to be commenced against the commissioners in their official capacities only, challenging this $150,000 limit. As of this moment, I do not believe that we have been served. Recently, the complaint was filed, and I haven't seen it come up this way as yet. We have sent to the Attorney General of the State of New York a request for representation and identification on behalf of the commissioners. So that's always nice to know. In the other matter that
But
is...
on Friday, there was an application for a preliminary injunction.
Yeah. So the
and
complaint
Judge
has been
Crotty-
filed.
And Judge Crotty set a schedule.
Yes, that is true.
And our papers are due on Friday.
And fortunately,
Whether we've been
Commissioner, the
served or
Attorney
not.
General
Right.
is
Right.
working on it. Fortunately, sir. In the Hispanic Leadership Fund case, the motion on behalf of the commissioners to dismiss by reason of the lack of standing of the plaintiffs was denied, so that case will progress. As you know, each side of the board has their own independent counsel on that case. And in the taxpayer revolt case down in Nassau County, which was filed in the Eastern District, the motion for a PI, I believe, is under consideration by the court. I don't think the judge has issued a determination as yet. He reserved decision. Okay? And that's pretty much it. Other than that, we're having a wonderful time.
Are you going to be able to clear up any of those misconceptions that the Moreland Commission may have regarding the way we do not work as they work in Washington, that it's rare that we have a problem voting in the same direction, that 99% of the time we vote in the same direction? And it seems to me that's something that's been perpetuated and is ludicrous. I can't remember the last time
Yeah,
we didn't agree.
there's-
That doesn't
yeah.
mean every once in a while there won't be a logjam, but that's like rare.
It seems to be a repeated, recurring theme that regardless of how many times we say that deadlock doesn't occur, that they write that deadlock continually occurs. But we are going to hopefully address that in the testimony, both in the written and the oral
I can
testimony that's
remember
given.
an old time I've been here, the last deadlock.
No, very rare.
Maybe there've been
very
one?
rare. Because we work things out
Right.
before they have to come to Sutton, and that's what we're here for. I
Well, we
think
should
we're here
give
to
some
work
lessons
things
to
out.
Washington on that.
Yeah, I think what
It
happens,
works.
I watched a lot of the local
I mean,
news.
voting's
and-
very important. We want it to be right. We want everyone
Okay.
to agree on the fact that what we're doing is right for the people, and I think we make a big effort towards that.
Yes, I watch a lot of the local news, particularly political types, and often someone will make that statement, well, that Board of Elections is four commissioners, 2 Republican, 2 Democrat, and they always vote in ties. So someone picks it up, and then a few weeks later, they'll have a new guest on the show, and says, well, the Board of Elections, every time they meet, it's 2 Republicans, every time they meet, it's a tie. And again, we've had, what, 1% we're saying that it's been a tie?
Yes, 1%.
I think there was one case in 10 years, perhaps, something like that.
I think we don't want that. I think our job is here as the Board of Elections to make elections right, and so people can vote fairly. And I think we strive towards that, so that's why in the end, the 4 of us agree.
It's very disappointing to some that we can really work together.
Yeah, they
and
want
that-
us to, they want us to prove that elections are corrupt, and therefore we're always fighting.
You're right.
And we're part of that scheme. Our scheme is to make everything fair and right and proper. So, since we're mostly 4 honest people, it gets that way pretty easily. Not always, not always. We have our moments.
Yes. Kim, are you complete with your
I am.
report? Thank you. Election operations, Anna, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, we have a slight change in our unit report. We've processed indeed 28 nominations for Supreme Court, as Kim mentioned. 68 candidates were nominated in that process. We, on our unit report, reported 2 declinations. We now have 7. And since this report was put in your packets, we have 2 substitutions of those 7. Tomorrow is the last day to fill a vacancy because of those declinations, but unfortunately, our documents come to us in the mail in a lot of cases, so that just drags out the turnaround time on some of these issues. But
Excuse me, Anna, is that till midnight tonight?
with us, it's got to be postmarked midnight tonight,
I
yes.
thought so.
Tomorrow, I'm sorry, the 1st.
Oh,
yes.
tomorrow, I'm sorry,
Right.
I'm sorry.
Ironically, we
I
have
knew
to
what I
certify our
meant.
ballot too. So we usually certify and then give a heads up to the JDs that are affected that there's a declination pending or a substitution pending, rather, so that they're held a bit in abeyance, but we will meet our certification deadline on time. We continued up to the convening of these conventions and even beyond in some cases, collecting primary information concerning delegates and alternate delegates who were in contests. We created those official roll calls, provided them to the conveners where conveners were shared with us. Otherwise, we gave the information, the documents to the state committee, and they distributed as they saw fit. We conducted, I believe, 1 more acceptance test since our last meeting in a county that purchased a central count system. We are getting some positive feedback on counties that have never counted ballots centrally, so we're looking forward to them buying those systems and helping those boards with that implementation. Consistent with our commitment to this board that we're going to have an updated guide on how to operate a Board of Elections out by the end of the year, we have sent that updated guide out to the commissioners. There are 4 commissioners that are working with us on the project. That guide reflected all of the changes that were made in the series of meetings that we had with those commissioners, and it also reflects the updates that the various unit heads around the table gave us, updating their own chapters in that guide. So we're going to get the county board feedback, and then we'll have another draft to take a look at. We continued with the routine operations relating to independent petition filings, petition reviews, and those kinds of issues from the county boards, as well as their generic questions. Joe, do you have anything?
Anna, what's the status of the New York City canvass procedures that are required for the general election, which is less than 5 weeks away?
I don't have procedures that were submitted by the City Board of Elections. I only have some documents that were submitted by the Manhattan Borough Chief Clerk in response to the email concerning their mushroom ballots and their preponderance of finding crops of those. So I have not had any procedure submitted to us for that kind of review from the board itself in that context.
What are you doing to pursue the city board to make sure that they have procedures in place that comply with the new statute?
Bob
in a
met with
timely
the executive
manner?
director, Mr. Ryan, when he was in the city last week on his Moreland Commission, and they discussed the need for us to see these procedures quickly. Again, he indicated that they'd be sent after council's office was done with them, which is a little counterproductive in our case, but if that's what they want to do, that's fine. It's not going to stop us from reviewing and commenting on them at that stage.
Well, I don't think it's fine that this is being delayed, and I'm extremely concerned that given the statutory responsibility to our agency to oversee the procedures of the county boards, that it's outrageous that we're continued to be stonewalled by the city board on this, and I would strongly urge that this be given priority to make sure that our input in these city procedures is done in a timely manner. And with the election less than 5 weeks away, I raised this issue a month ago, and we are no closer to resolution on this than we were a month ago, and I'm extremely disappointed.
May I say something? I know that the city board is working 7 days a week. And I know it is working most days 12 hours a day. 8 hours a day, and then 12 hours when they can. So I don't think, I just know through friends, that, I don't really think that they are stonewalling us or not wanting to do what we want.
They
think
say
they
that
should-
there are procedures, but they're not going to show them to us until council's office and the city board reviews them,
Well,
and that's
that
not
doesn't
appropriate.
seem not to make sense. They want their council to review them. That makes sense.
We can be reviewing them at the same time that their council is
Well, maybe
reviewing them.
most people
But-
would prefer council first, then us.
Yeah, but that was a month ago. That the status has not changed in a month, and what's going to happen is that these procedures are going to be popped out when it's too late to make any substantive comments or changes on them.
We've
And,
just had a lot of elections in the last couple of months. They have one tomorrow, and then they have. I don't think you're 100% wrong. Don't get me wrong, but I think we have to take into consideration what's going on. They don't get people hired as easily as we'd like them to. There's problems, we know that, and I think Anna is very close to them. And I think if they were really not doing their job, she would straighten them out. She wouldn't need us to. She would talk to them very quickly. But from what I hear, the hours I see, some of my neighbors who are inspectors at the board, the hours they're putting in down there are unbelievable. 5 days a week, 7 days a week. They're working Saturdays and Sundays, and they're working long hours, not little hours, 12 hours a day, some of them. So, I think they know what we want, or we wouldn't see this going on. And I have to understand, money is a question too. I think what you're saying is right, and we should say that and let them know, and at the same time realize that they are trying very hard.
I'll reach out to them again today when I get back to my desk. I'm not aware that that's a regulation of the city boards, that they're only allowed to share procedures once council has signed off on them. That may be their routine, but I don't know that they'd be breaking any board policy by sending us something that could be reviewed in tandem with council's review or anybody else's.
Forget their board policy. The state statute requires that we have input and supervisory role with respect to the procedures. So I'm simply saying that given the time of this, that we need to assert that in as strong a way as possible so that we don't have a repeat of what happened 3 years ago when they
I don't think you will. They're really working very hard down there, very, very hard.
Complete?
Anna, and I'm really saying that, on the record, not off the record. They are working like dogs.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
Public information, John Conklin, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, we've been in the news a fair amount since the last meeting, answering questions about our participation in response to the Moreland Commission. But we also do have our other routine inquiries from the press and others. Campaign finance filings are always of great interest to everyone. Plus, as Todd stated, the statewide ballot propositions. We continue to facilitate MOVE Act compliance and updates with the local boards, CITL and SOE, and the county voter registration vendors for absentee ballot transmission. We are almost done with the quote we're compiling for compliance with the requirement that we publish the 6 constitutional amendments in legal notices around the state. The last figure I had was 300 and, well, it's been up a little bit since that. It's now 311. It's not yet, where is it?
311,000.
313,000 is the last number. But I'm still waiting on a quote from a Bengali newspaper in New York City, a newspaper in Steuben County, Delaware County, and then we should be complete. So, but it's going to be slightly above $313,000 at this point.
And we should remind everyone that our legislative package has proposed eliminating that publication requirement year after year. And of course, all the propositions are posted on the website, so that there really is no significant purpose served by paying
I must
these
say,
substantial costs.
I'm sorry. I was watching television about a week ago, and the Bengali news came on. I guess they own it. And they talked about the vote of election, the election coming soon, the election on the 30th, and be involved. And then they spoke in Bengali or whatever. And I said, this is something new for me. It really is. I've seen immigrants come before, but not to be, my goodness, right on the spot, you know. And I just want to say, you see them in the newspaper in Brooklyn. We saw them on the television.
Well, Bengali is the latest language to be added under the Voting Rights Act.
Yes, I know that. They made that very clear. They spoke both in English and Bengali. Encouraged Bengali people from Bengali to learn to speak English. But it was a surprise.
Report complete, John?
I just wanted to note that we've published the candidates list for the Supreme Court candidates is on the website. For the ones where the nominations are reported here, so that is excluding the 1st and 2nd, and there are no vacancies in the 13th. But and the EAC grant reports were also published on the website since the last board meeting.
Congratulations.
Anything to add, Tom?
Just, you mentioned before the MOVE Act, this Friday is the deadline for transmittal of the military ballots, so I sent out an email this morning to all the counties, so we'll be working with them this week. I know New York City's on somewhat of a shifted schedule because they get the extra week for certifying the ballot, so we'll be working with them to try to get out a federal write-in absentee ballot this Friday if there's not a ballot available, still by the 32-day deadline. And then otherwise, as John mentioned, we've been working with regard to the proposition language and getting translations done, both for the boards to make their ballots, but also the audio files for the ballot marking devices, so everything's read in the correct language. And we were able to get input from some outside groups to try to get their feedback to try to make a better overall translation.
Any further questions? Thank you. Campaign finance, Bill McCann, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. Last week was not auspicious for her in that she got to retire, but not necessarily auspicious for the board. But Liz Hogan retired and will be moving. Just a couple of highlights of the workings of the unit. Last week we did file the July order to show cause against approximately 381 candidates and committees for failure to file, which, while that may seem like a lot compared to the number of people who actually get the Dunning notice, we do see the fruits of that. As you know, we serve the notices by certified mail, and then even though it's not statutorily required, we also send it by first-class mail as well. And so, and then in addition to that, we do enlist the services of the county boards of elections by sending them the late lists so that they can work with their local filers to try to get them into compliance. So we take a very proactive approach to try to reduce the number of folks that we ultimately have to seek a failure to file claim against, and but we did commence that last week. We have a new process server that we will be working with under, it's going to be an MWBE, or Minority Women Business Enterprise contract. It's in the process of being executed by the parties, and then we'll go to the comptroller and the Attorney General. But in the interim, we'll be working off a purchase order on this order to show cause so that we can implement that. We also did work specifically with the New York City Campaign Finance Board. Tomorrow is the runoff in New York City, and so based upon the obligations to file runoff reports for those candidates and committees in the runoff, and then any supporting or opposing them, we worked closely with the New York City Campaign Finance Board in order to come up with a schedule of filing, so that would work within the constructs of our software and also their filing process as well. So that's those are the two big highlights, and I would be happy to take any questions if you have.
Well, my candidate didn't make the runoff. I love him.
As my mother would say, mi dispiace.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Back to you, Dave Loomis.
Thank you, Commissioner. We continue to work on the major initiatives that we've outlined for the board for this year. I just wanted to point out that we will be sending out a questionnaire to the county boards for our election night reporting system that we're putting together for this election, and we're looking to have a technical contact person from the board so that we can begin working with them and going over what we need in order to put a system in place for this year's election.
Any questions? Thank you, Dave.
Yep.
Old business, regulations.
You know, after listening to Commissioner Kellner and Anna on that matter, I briefly discussed it with Todd, and I see no reason why we shouldn't move that ahead like you requested, in the spirit of cooperation.
So
If there's anything
go
that
ahead for
has to be-
publication, and we
If
can.
it has to be amended afterwards, so be it.
And Anna, I think you should take a hard look if they have suggestions on amending it.
Open mind.
Right. Well, thank you. So I move that we notice the proposed regulations for publication.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. That was it, item A and B combined?
Yes.
Okay. No business. Determination related to judicial nominations. Do we have anything to say about this?
We don't have any.
Okay.
Thank God.
Discuss the calendar for the 2014 federal primary and general elections.
So I think we have a draft that's out there, and we should take this up at the next meeting. But for anyone who's interested, they should simply ask us. We'd be happy to forward the draft so everybody knows what we're thinking of, and hopefully we'd be ready to make a motion to Judge Sharp in November.
Okay. Next meeting date, we did have to change because of conflict with the Moreland Commission meetings. We have come with the date of November 1st. Is that correct or no?
What's the
November 1st.
November 1st?
It's All Saints Day.
Well, I know it's All Saints Day. That's not a problem with
Okay.
me. It's just I had a November. That's a nightmare. I've had a wonderful one. I have everything going on in the whole world. But it ends with a week in Florida at my son's place, so it's not so good.
Great.
So
No,
November
yes,
1st.
Our church is 100 years old, and we're celebrating that. And plus, our pastor is how many, I forget, 72 years old when they're celebrating.
So
Danny
he's
Wood.
just a baby.
He wants to retire, but they won't let him. They just don't have enough space, so.
But November 1st is a fact, Commissioners?
Yep.
Okay. We have some preliminary determinations. Do you want, do we need a vote to go in executive session or
No,
no?
I move that we adopt the determinations as drafted by staff.
Second motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
November 1st, I'm writing
That's correct.
October 1st, which is tomorrow.
I will accept the motion to adjourn to November 1st.
That's
We're adjourned.
amazing.
Second, all in favor? Aye, opposed? Carried. Away we go. Thank you.
I had such a